In this video I just want to introduce some of the basics of the if statement. So first of all, note that the if statement is lowercase I and f. You never use uppercase, so if in any program means lowercase I and f. So just quickly, let's scan over this piece of code. What it simply does, it asks the user to enter a mark. Then if you read it in English, if that mark is less than 50, it will display on the screen fail. Otherwise, it will display on the screen a pass. So the two keywords that we use in an if statement are the words if and else. If starts the statement, and else comes between the true part and the false part of the statement. So if and else, both words always lowercase. Notice that you don't need the else statement. You can have an if statement that just does something, one thing, and does not have an else part to it. Something which all if statements have is the condition statement. First, to note that it always starts with an open bracket and closes with a closed bracket. So the condition is in between those two brackets. The condition itself is something that when you evaluate it, it must be a true or a false. So in this case, it's x less than 50. So if the user entered a 45, the condition is true. If the user entered a 60, the condition would be false. The condition statement is followed directly by what we call the true part of the if statement. It simply means if the condition is true, that is the part of the command that will be executed. So in this case, if the user entered a 40, the if statement will print a fail because the condition is then true. After the else, you get the false part of the if statement, which simply means if the condition was false, not true, this is the part of the if statement that would be executed. So if the user had entered an 80, the condition would be false, and therefore it would print pass. It is important to know that when either the true or the false part contains more than one statement, in this case you'll see that the true part prints fail, and it also says work harder next time. The statements must be surrounded by two curly brackets, as you can see in the code. So as soon as the true or the false part has more than one statement, you need the curly brackets. And in this case, the true and the false part has curly brackets. So since the true or the false part can have more than one command, you can literally put then anything in that part. In this example, we've added another if statement into the false part. So it simply says we differentiate between a distinction pass and a normal pass. So if you go into the false part of this if statement, and then you say again, if x is greater than or equal to 75, you print distinction, otherwise you print just pass. So in this case, we have an if statement within an if statement. We refer to it as a nested if statement. In programming, this nested if statement that's bold-faced is seen as one statement. So you technically don't need the curly brackets for the false part. Notice we've removed the curly brackets because that if-else statement is seen as one statement on its own.